Sabbath and good evening, everybody.
So, gesegneten Sabbat und einen schönen Abend allerseits.
Let us open with a prayer.
Lasst uns wieder mit Gebet öffnen.
Dear Father in heaven,
Lieber Vater im Himmel,
we thank you that we can gather once more today.
wir danken dir, dass wir ein weiteres Mal heute zusammenkommen können.
And we thank you for another opportunity to study your word.
Und wir danken dir für eine weitere Möglichkeit, dein Wort zu studieren.
And we invite you to please bless your word now.
Und wir laden dich ein, dass du dein Wort jetzt bitte segnest.
And that you bring into remembrance those things that we have already learned.
Und dass du das, was wir bereits gelernt haben, in unsere Erinnerung widerrufst.
And that you teach us new things.
Und dass du uns Neues lehrst.
And we commit this in your hands and we ask to forgive us, please, our sins.
Und wir legen diese Sachen in deine Händen und bitten, dass du unsere Sünden vergibst.
Please forgive us where we might have transgressed your Sabbath commandment.
Bitte vergebe uns, wo wir möglicherweise den Sabbatgebot gebrochen haben.
And please grant us understanding and repentance.
Und bitte gewähre uns Verständnis und aber auch wahre Buße.
And we place now all these things in your hands and ask and pray in Jesus' name.
Wir legen all dies in deine Hände und bitten und beten in Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
So the notes will come now in the live stream.
So, die Notizen, die kommen jetzt zu uns in den Livestream. So gleich an.
There's also a picture,
Und da ist auch ein Bild dabei.
and this is taken from the chart, from the 1843 chart.
Und dieses Bild würde von den 1843er Karte entnommen.
Okay. Quickly translate. All right. So this evening we want to look a little bit at the League of the Jews.
Und heute Abend wollen wir etwas über den Bündnis der Juden anschauen.
Because we looked at some of in the last studies we looked quite often at these different leagues.
Denn in den letzten Studien, die wir gemacht haben, wir haben öfters mal diese verschiedenen Bündnisse angeschaut.
Okay, and can you just name me a few?
Und konntet ihr mir ein paar davon nennen? Also der Bündnis der Nationen,
Yes.
the United States of America,
Okay.
den USA auch noch.
Okay, so maybe just let's go through one after another.
So lasst uns eins nach dem anderen hindurchgehen.
So, where would we mark this League of Nations?
So, wo werden wir diese Bündnis der Nationen markieren?
Völkerbund, was ist
Der Völkerbund, danke. Also am Ende der Ersten Weltkrieg, würde gesagt. At
Yes.
the end of the First World War.
Right, and where would this be?
Und wo würde das denn sein? Mitternacht.
Das ist
Okay.
You mean das Mittel.
Okay, so the First World War is here, right?
Also der Erste Weltkrieg ist hier.
So and this would be midnight.
Das wäre denn hier Mitternacht. Sonntagsgesetz.
So here's the League of Nations.
So hier ist der Völkerbund.
And okay, now the second league.
Und jetzt der zweite Bündnis.
United Nations, yes.
Also der UNO.
And the United Nations was when?
Und wann war der UNO? Wann ist das aufgekommen?
Yes, was after the Second World War.
Das war am Ende der Zweiten Weltkrieg.
Looks a little bit dirty on here. Like this. Okay, and the Second World War we understand is here.
Und der Zweite Weltkrieg, verstehen wir, ist hier.
So therefore we have here the United Nations.
So, denn demgemäß haben wir hier der UNO zu markieren. UN.
But this is the final review, and we understand final review is also here.
Das ist der finale Untersuchung und wir wissen auch, diesen größere Fraktal der finale Untersuchung ist hier.
And that's why you can mark the UN in principle also here.
Und deswegen können wir den UN im Prinzip auch hier markieren.
That's fine. We can
Okay.
So All right. So next one.
So, der nächste Bündnis.
End of this US Civil War.
Yes, the end of the U.S. Civil War. Right?
Also am Ende der US-Bürgerkrieg.
And we understand the U.S. Civil War is a parallel to the First World War. Right?
Und wir verstehen, dass der US-Bürgerkrieg ist eine Parallel zum Ersten Weltkrieg.
Okay, why?
Und warum?
4 years.
War between the North and the South for 4 years.
Yes.
Also ein Krieg zwischen Norden und Süden und jeweils, die waren 4 Jahre lang.
Right. Okay, it's Daniel 11 verse 40, right? North against the South.
Daniel 11, Vers 40, das Norden gegen Süden.
Okay, so at the end there was this.
14th Amendment.
Yes, let's call it this.
Ende war diese 14. Grundsatzveränderung in der Verfassung.
Zusatzartikel.
Zusatzartikel in der Verfassung.
Zusatzartikel. Okay. Okay.
Ja, die deutschen Notizen kommen noch. Oder
What?
sind gerade gekommen.
But it's not in the notes anyways. So, give me some more.
So, gib mir weitere.
League of Lycia.
Okay, yes.
Which
Der
was
Bündnis von Lycia,
Albanian League.
diese
Yes.
albanische Bündnis oder Balkanbündnis in Albanien.
Okay. So,
And it was marking the Battle of Kruja, which is like
how do you spell let's see?
Just
Z-H-E.
This?
With a little stroke it had one of those
Yes,
E's that I could
So, der League von Lycia.
Okay, so and why can we mark it here?
Warum können wir das hier markieren?
Because it was shortened.
Okay, what was shortened?
Weil es verkürzt wurde.
The Islam.
Yes, the first war, right?
Also die erste Wehe.
So we understand the first war is here from the Sunday law to the midnight cry,
Wir
right?
verstehen, dass der erste Wehe ist von Sonntagsgesetz bis zur Mitternachtsruf.
And just shortly before the first war ended, there was this little time of peace.
Und gerade vor der Erste Weltkrieg zu Ende kam, gab es die erste Wehe zu Ende kam, gab es diese kleine Zeit des Friedens.
The only difference.
Which is marked by this League of Letzie, which was in Albania,
Und das war markiert durch diese Bündnis von Lycia, was in Albanien war.
where basically the Albanians then fought back the Turks.
Wo die Albaner die Türken zurückdrängen.
The only point is, it wasn't made there. It was upheld there because there's a league. It's, I don't know what that is teaching, but it's marking it.
All right, and another one.
Ein weiteres,
Yes, the League of Napoleon, the Bund,
Yes, the Rheinbund.
the
Right?
Rheinbund.
der Rheinbund von Napoleon.
Okay. Rhein. How can you mark it here?
Und warum können wir das hier markieren?
It's marking the rise of it's like a parallel to the rise of the United States.
Es ist ein Parallel zum Aufkommen von den USA.
Yes, because Napoleon
It would be the
marks 1798, right?
Weil Napoleon, der markiert 1789.
98.
98, Verzeihung. Yes.
Yes. And he then basically he conquered many German nations, and then he made this confederation of these German states.
Hat viele von den deutschen Städte,
Fürstentümer.
überfallen und dann hat er diesen Rheinbund gemacht, sie alle vereint.
Okay. And one more
Ein
that we
weiteres,
looked at.
die wir angeschaut haben.
I mean, we at least mentioned it.
Napoleon.
Wir haben es
This is
zumindest
Napoleon.
erwähnt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was now. I can't remember.
What is this waymark in the Millerite time?
Zur Miller-Geschichte, was ist diese Wegmarkierung?
October 22nd.
In the Millerite line.
In Miller-Linie. August 11.
August 11th.
Ah,
right?
okay.
11. August 1840.
Yes.
Okay, and what did take place here?
Und was fand da statt?
The four nations made a league.
Exactly.
Die 4 europäischen Nationen hatten ein Bündnis gemacht gegen Egypt. Right?
No. Yeah, yes, against Egypt.
So gegen Ägypten.
Okay.
It brought a time of peace in the second war, and this one brought a time of peace in the first war.
Yes.
Say that again, Mark.
This
One
league.
is, that one brought a time of peace in the second war. This one brought a time of
This
peace.
one.
This league here, the 4 European powers.
Die 4 europäischen Mächte haben ein Bündnis, eine kleine Zeit des Friedens in der zweiten Wehe hineingebracht.
I mean, it was at the end of the Second War, right?
Am Ende
So
der zweiten Wehe.
you can well say it was a peace under the sixth trumpet, because it was already the end of the Second War, right?
Es war auch das Ende von zweiten Wehe.
So here this,
Yeah, okay, but
this
the trumpet, what I'm saying is the trumpet had not yet done sound. It was still this P to go. That's,
Yes. okay. So 4 European powers.
Die 4 europäischen Mächte.
Okay, so that's basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 witnesses that there's going to be a league of nations here at this waymark.
So, wir haben 6 Zeugen, die bezeugen, dass hier an dieser Wegmarke eine Art Völkerbund geben wird.
Okay, but basically, what do all these leagues have in common in some
Aber
sense?
was haben all diesen Bündnisse, was ist der gemeinsame Nenner? Was haben sie alle gleich?
they ought to bring a time uphold world peace.
Yes, okay.
Die alle stehen für Weltfrieden ein.
Okay, yes, that's true.
Das
And
stimmt auch.
what else?
Was noch?
What powers come together there?
Welche
South.
Kräfte kommen zusammen?
Which one?
South, south.
World powers.
Yes. Okay, maybe my question is really not good. They're all external powers,
Das
right?
sind alle externe Mächte.
Okay, and this,
Civil powers.
yes.
Das sind alle Zivilmächte.
And now we want to look at this league of the Jews,
Und jetzt wollen wir diese Judenbündnis anschauen.
and this most likely represents an internal league of the SDA church with
Civil powers.
the civil powers.
Und
Okay.
höchstwahrscheinlich stellt das eine interne Bündnis mit der Siebentags-Adventist-Gemeinde.
Zwischen der Siebentagsadventisten.
With them and, okay.
Mhm.
Zwischen den Siebentags-Adventist-Gemeinde und den Zivilkräften.
Yes. Okay. So when you look at the picture that I sent in the WhatsApp group,
Also wenn wir in den Livestream-Gruppe diesen Bild anschauen, die ich gesandt habe,
this is just taken from the 1843 chart.
das ist nur von den 1843er Karte entnommen.
You can see the date. Okay, it's 158 BC, and it says time of the league between the Jews and Romans, 185 years before Christ. And then First Maccabees chapter 9, verse 70 to 71 are quoted, and Josephus is also quoted.
So, 158 vor Christus kann man sehen, es ist eine Bündnis zwischen den Juden und den Römern. Und dann gibt es diese Bibelversen und auch diese andere Vers zitiert hier.
Yes. And also Daniel 11 verse 23 is also marked there.
Und
right?
Daniel 11,23 ist auch da markiert.
Okay, let's go to our Bibles.
So.
Let's go to Daniel 11.
Lasst uns zu unsere Bibeln, zu Daniel 11 gehen.
Just to get maybe a little bit the context,
Und nur um ein bisschen Kontext zu verschaffen,
let's start already in verse 20.
lasst uns im Vers 20 anfangen,
And then we will read down to 24.
bis Vers 24.
Daniel 11, 20 to 24. It says, Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. So who was this prophetically?
So prophetisch, wer war das?
Or historically, right?
So historisch, wer war das?
Was Emperor
Caesar. Augustus.
Augustus.
Yes.
Das war
Okay.
Augustus Caesar.
Because it's a raiser of taxes, right?
Denn er war ein Steuererhöher.
So which event is marked here?
So welches Ereignis wird hier markiert?
The birth of Christ.
Yes, right.
Die Geburt Christi.
And so keep your finger here just to prove this. Let's go to Luke chapter 2.
Halte den Platz hier und um das zu beweisen, geht zu Lukas Kapitel 2.
And let's read verse 1 down to verse 4.
Verse 1 bis 4.
Or to verse 5.
1 bis 5.
Brother Mark, do you want to read this one, please?
Yes. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, when all went to be taxed every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child.
Yes. And then basically next verse speaks about how Jesus was born.
Die nächsten Versen erklären, wie Jesus geboren worden ist.
Okay, so when we go back to Daniel 11,
Zurück zu Daniel 11.
so we're clearly in verse 20, we're clearly in the time of pagan Rome.
So Vers 20 ist es klar zu sehen, dass wir in der Zeitperiode von heidnischen Rom sind.
So at the birth of Christ.
Zum Geburt Christi.
Where are you marking that one?
I was not really considering this point to be marked now. I just wanted to go historically, but do you have a suggestion?
Are you, I don't know where you're going, but are you linking this to the league with the Jews?
Not really, but
Okay.
maybe it is linked. I haven't thought about it.
Okay, it doesn't matter, but I don't want to detract you on
That's
different thoughts. So.
No, I just want to first give now a short, location where we are historically, and then
Okay.
go to the league. Okay, so let's go now to verse 21.
So, jetzt Vers 21.
And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom. So who was this?
So, wer war das jetzt?
Yes, Tiberius Caesar, right?
Tiberius Caesar.
He succeeded then, what's his name? Augustus.
Er war der Nachfolger von Augustus.
But he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. So here we see the crucifixion of Jesus, right?
So, hier kann die Kreuzigung Christi sehen.
Because the prince of the covenant is broken, which is Jesus.
Weil der Prinz der Bündnis, der gebrochen wurde, ist Christus.
Okay, so far the prophecy brought us down to the cross.
So weit, diese Prophezeiung hat uns bis zum Kreuz gebracht.
And the power spoken of is pagan Rome here.
Und der Macht, der hier erwähnt wird, ist heidnischen Rom.
Now let's go to verse 23.
Jetzt Vers 23.
It says, and after the league made with him, with pagan Rome, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. So here we can see now this league mentioned that is made with the Romans.
So hier können wir sehen, diese Bündnis, die erwähnt wird, die mit den Römern beschlossen worden ist.
Okay, and this is what is also known as the League of the Jews. Okay.
Und das ist auch bekannt als den Bündnis der Juden.
Okay, so and I want to suggest that this league is to be placed where all the other leagues are also placed.
Und ich möchte vorschlagen, dass auch diese Bündnis wird da markiert, wo auch diese anderen Bündnisse markiert sind.
Okay, League of Jews. Because when we come here to 1798, what happens to the papacy?
Denn wenn wir hier zum 1798 ankommen, was geschieht mit der Papst?
Gets a deadly wound, right?
Tödliche Wunde.
And what other power comes up then?
Und was für eine Macht kommt hier auf?
United States.
Den
Okay.
USA.
So here we can see the United States coming up, and how do they come up?
Und hier können wir sehen, den USA kommt herauf. Und wie kommen sie herauf?
Yes, like a lamb.
Wie
Right?
ein Lamm.
So it's in a time of peace.
So in einer Zeit des Friedens.
It's this little time of peace.
Kleine Zeit des Friedens.
Okay. And they are typified by which other power?
Und die werden durch welche andere Kraft vorausgestattet?
The United States is typified by.
Mit zum Persians.
But what other power came up in peace?
Also welche andere Macht kam im Frieden herauf?
Who's that?
The pagan Roman Empire.
Pagan Rome, right?
Heidnische römische Empire.
Okay, because this is what it's marked right here.
Denn das ist das, was gerade in diesen Versen markiert sind.
Let's just read this again.
Lass uns das ein weiteres Mal
Let's
lesen.
read verse 23 and then also 24.
Die Verse 23, dann
It
24.
says, "And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time." Okay, so that's this time, right?
Das markiert diese Zeit,
Where
360.
yes, 360, where it was now this time of peace in the sense where they acquired all this territory by peace.
diese
Right?
360 Jahre, diese Zeit des Friedens sozusagen, wo sie all diese Territorium durch Frieden, also nicht Krieg eingenommen haben.
And at the end of it, what did they do?
Und am Ende dessen, was haben sie getan?
What marked the end of this
They,
time?
they moved from Rome to Constantinople.
Yes,
Was
exactly.
markiert das Ende von diesen 360? Die haben den Hauptstadt von Rom nach Konstantinopel verlegt.
Which marks that the dragon gives now the seat to the beast, right?
Was markiert, dass der Drache seinen Sitz dem Tier übergibt,
Which is the Sunday.
was das Sonntagsgesetz ist.
Okay.
I-
Alright.
Can I get? I don't know if you're going there, but confirmation of that. You remember you dealing with William Miller's prediction upon that 666.
I will mention this.
Oh, okay, because it takes you to this same point.
Yes, yes. Okay, so basically, yeah, so we have the United States, pagan Rome coming up here for this time of
So
peace.
hier kommt heidnischen Rom herauf für diese Zeit des Friedens.
Just like the United States comes up for this time of peace until the Sunday law.
Genauso wie den USA für diese Zeit des Friedens heraufkommt bis zur Sonntagsgesetz.
And we can see that the Bible links this coming up of Rome for this time together with the League of the Jews.
Und wir können sehen, dass die Bibel verbindet diese Zeit, wo Rom heraufkommt, mit dieser Bündnis der Juden.
So it marks first this league with the Jews and then this time of the Romans.
Zuerst markiert es diese Bündnis mit den Juden und dann diese Zeit der Römer.
Okay, so therefore we can see the SDA Church will do some kind of league here at the same time when the nations will make a league.
So hier können wir sehen, dass der STA-Gemeinde eine Art Bündnis verschließen wird zur selben Zeit. To same time as?
When the nations will make
Zur
it.
selben Zeit, wo die Nationen ein Bündnis machen wird.
Yes. With whom did they do it?
Und mit wem haben sie das getan? What did you say, Margaret?
With whom they will make a league?
Yes.
Also mit wem werden sie ein Bündnis schließen?
Yes, with pagan Rome, right?
Also mit heidnischen Rom,
Yes, and which is now United States.
was hier am Ende den USA ist.
But we understand the United States is the king of the United Nations, right?
Aber wir verstehen, dass den USA der König ist von den 10 Königen, also den UN,
So in the sense they will make this league with
the world.
all the nations.
So
Right?
in diesem Sinne werden die diese Bündnis mit der gesamten Welt machen,
Okay, so
alle Nationen.
and it's not far-fetched because what comes to pass here?
Und es ist nicht weit übertrieben, denn was kommt hier zustande?
What do you mean? What comes to pass?
That's what comes to pass at midnight.
100 things.
Okay, it's the prediction, right?
Also der Vorhersage wird hier eintreffen.
So, and when the prediction comes true,
Und wenn diese Vorhersage trifft ein,
the official church, they don't want to have anything or nothing to do with it.
also die offizielle STA-Gemeinde, die wollen ja gar nichts damit zu tun haben.
Okay, so they will try to somehow,
Disfranchise
Yes.
themselves from you.
Also die werden versuchen auf jeden Fall, sich von uns öffentlich zu trennen.
they already did it with Jeff's group.
Also die haben das bereits mit Jeffs Gruppe getan, öffentlich.
They made a public statement, we have nothing to do with these guys.
Wir haben eine öffentliche Aussage gemacht, dass wir haben gar nichts mit dieser Gruppe zu tun.
Okay, so Okay, so basically I want to now look a little bit into this league here.
Also ich möchte etwas in diesen Bündnis hier etwa hineinschauen
And
oder näher betrachten.
when we look at this, I'm not 100% settled whether I understood everything correctly, but we can just look at this.
Und wenn wir das anschauen, wohl bemerkt, ich bin noch nicht 100% sicher, dass ich das korrekterweise verstanden habe, aber wir schauen es dennoch gemeinsam an.
Okay. So, but maybe before we look at this, I forgot to put it into the notes. Actually no, it is there. Okay, that's all fine. Okay, let's go now to the notes.
So, lasst uns jetzt zu den Notizen gehen.
And let's read the first quote by Josiah Litch.
Und wir lesen diesen ersten Zitat von Josiah Litch.
And Marius, you want to read this first, please?
As yet, but little reference has been made to the people of God or the Jews, except the break on the prince of the covenant.
I mean, he's commenting on Daniel 11.
Also er kommentiert über Daniel 11, was wir bereits gelesen haben.
The angel is now about to give their connection with the Romans, the power which was to continue to the end to oppress them. The first league ever made between the Jews and Romans was that related by Josephus, to which the reader is referred. The Grecians were at war with the Jews and greatly oppressed and afflicted them. The Chiades, a Grecian general, left off to trouble the Jews at the command of the Romans after this league. And after this, the Grecians never more returned to vex and trouble the Jews. The time when Bacchiades that left off to trouble them was BC 158. From that time the Romans began to work deceitfully and gradually to gain an ascendancy over the Jews, until at length they became tributary to Rome and were governed by high priests and kings appointed by the Roman government. For he shall come up and become strong with a small people. Rome was in its beginning a small republican people, but about the time of this league they had become the most formidable of any nation that in existence, and all kingdoms stood in fear of them.
Okay, so we can see here that the Grecians, they came and basically vexed the Jews here.
So, wir können sehen, dass die Griechen sind gekommen und haben viel Trübsal für den Juden verbreitet.
And there was this Grecian general Bacchiades, or how can you pronounce him? Bacchiades, okay. And he was basically the general who always invaded the territory of the Jews. Okay.
Und dieser griechische General Bacchiades, der war derjenige, der immer in den Territorien den Juden hineingekommen ist, um Ärger zu suchen.
But it says here that in the middle of the boldface, it says the time when Bacchiades thus left off to trouble them was BC 158.
Aber inmitten diesen Fettgedruckten sagt, der Zeit, wo er davon abließ, den Juden zu ärgern, war 158 vor Christus.
Okay, so now let's go to the next quote.
Nächster Zitat.
Philip, you want to read this for us?
The next period.
Mm-hmm.
The next period is recorded from verse 22 to 31. It begins with the first league ever made between the Jews and Romans, which took effect when Bacchiades, a Grecian general, left off at command of the Romans to trouble the Jews BC 158.
Okay, stop here. So here it says it went into effect in BC 158.
So hier sagt es, dass diese Bündnis trat erst ein in 158 vor Christus.
Okay, and what I want to suggest is that the league was actually made prior to 158 BC.
Und was ich vorschlagen möchte, ist, dass diese Bündnis vor 158 BC abgeschlossen worden ist.
But the chart marks the date when it went into effect.
Aber die Karte markiert der Datum, wo es eingesetzt worden ist.
Okay, because when you go through the pioneer writings, some say it was 162 BC when it was made, and others say 158 when it went into effect here.
Also wenn du die Pioniere durchliest, die einige sagen, dass diese Bündnis beschlossen worden ist in 1,62 vor Christus und andere sagen, es ist in Effekt eingetreten 1,58. Also
Okay.
diese zwei da.
Because, for instance, you have also the third decree, right?
Denn zum Beispiel, es gibt auch der dritte Dekret
And the third decree was issued before it went into effect.
und der dritte Dekret wurde erlassen noch bevor es in Effekt eintrat,
In Kraft trat.
bevor es in Kraft trat. Danke.
So, in this sense, but the Bible prophecy marks when it goes into effect.
Aber in diesem Sinne hier, der biblische Prophetie markiert der Punkt, wo es in Kraft gesetzt wird.
Okay, and I want to show you why I think so.
Und ich möchte zeigen, warum ich so denke.
Alright, let's.
I just have something
Yes.
to add to this. I think they refer to the same thing, but they didn't know about April 4 BC, like the birth of Christ. Because in the chart it says that Antiochus was 164 BC, but it explains there 164 years before the death of Christ, which was actually 4 BC, not 0. So there might have been just a confusion of 4 years.
Also Bruder Philipp schlägt vor, dass 1,62 und 1,58 eigentlich derselbe Ereignis markieren. Ist das nur einige Schreiber haben diese 4 Jahre Verwirrung um den Geburt Christi. Einige haben darüber mit einbezogen und andere das nicht.
So the chart says, for example, 164 is not 164 BC in the chart, is 164 before the birth of Christ.
Also auf der Karte ist 1,64 sagt, es ist 1,64 vor der Geburt Christi.
Just read what it says there.
Yeah.
Just read what it says.
Right?
Next day 164. Come down. Right there.
164.
Since the death of Antiochus Epiphanes, who of course stood up not against the Prince of Princes, as he'd been 164 years dead before the Prince of Princes was born.
Which was 4 BC.
Und das war 4 vor Christus, sozusagen, wo Christus geboren worden ist.
I mean,
For the Sunday.
I don't know how to address this point now. Okay.
Also ich weiß nicht, wie ich das
But that would
ansprechen
make it
soll.
160.
This one 6 year.
That's not, doesn't marry up 160 with 158. So there's still some discrepancy there.
No, I think the pioneers are saying 162 and 158, which makes 4 years. Right, but what he's pointing out on here is nothing to do with 164, the date, it's just at 164 they're marking on the chart from the time that Christ was born and not from the year 0.
I get that, but what's that got to do with 158? That's what I'm asking.
Well, 164 has got nothing to do with 158. 162 is what the date which the pioneers used, or 158, which is 4 years apart.
I get that, but why are we using 164 as marking for
We're not
Christ?
using 164 at all. We're using what's written next to 164, that the pioneers on this chart are writing from the time when Jesus was born.
Okay, that's 164.
Yeah, amen.
It's marking, but what's
That's
it got to
his-
do with 158? That's what I'm asking.
That's his point. Well, if they mark 162 from the time when Christ was born, and you go,
Just stop.
164.
164.
no, forget
How
164.
they calculate.
No, you show me where it's calculated 162 from when he's born. That's what I want to know.
Okay,
I get what's on the chart.
but there's obviously something you're not getting his point. Now, I'm not arguing his point. I'm just telling you what his point
Let
is.
me just draw it out, and maybe it's easier to see. Okay, so basically, right, you have 164 BC to the years 0 would be
Also-
164 years.
164 bis zu Jahr 0 ist 164 Jahre.
Okay, but we know that Christ is born 4 years BC.
Aber wir wissen, dass Christus 4 Jahre vor das Jahr 0 geboren worden
That's
ist.
BC.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, sorry.
Alright, so, and they say 164 years before the birth of Christ and they put down the year 164 BC.
Also die sagen 164 Jahre vor das Geburt Christi und sie marken das Datum 164.
So in this sense, they should have written down this date instead 160 years.
Also
before the
anstelle
birth of
von 164 zu schreiben, die hätten 160 Jahre
No, no.
schreiben.
They should have written down 164, but said 160 years to the birth of Christ.
Also die haben 164 geschrieben, aber die hätten sagen 160 Jahre bis zum Geburt Christi.
Because 164 minus 164 minus 160 would bring you to the actual birth of Christ.
Denn 160 minus 164 bringt zum Geburt Christi.
Yes? Everybody can follow?
Kann jeder folgen?
Yeah, but okay,
Yes, yes.
I can understand the maths, but I've got
Yes, yes.
no clue what the
No,
point
no, his point is now, okay, that as the chart says 158,
So wie der Karte sagt 158,
as they were 4 years off here,
weil sie 4 Jahre hier aus waren.
if you would add now
4 years.
4 years, so
It
just
would be 162.
Yes.
and then you know
No, you count backwards or not, it would be 160.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
162.
No, you count backwards, right? If you have BC, if you go further back, you add a year.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's done here.
Yes,
You
you go this way.
158, 162,
Yes, so-
500, 1000, 4000.
So if you would now use this as a starting point and add 164, it would bring you to 168, right?
Yes.
So that's exactly the same. If they had done the same thought here,
Also wenn sie dasselbe gemacht haben, wie Philipp vorschlägt,
then you also had to do it like this, right?
dann kannst du sehen, dass 0 bis 158 oder 4 bis 162.
But the problem I have is 158 is the correct
Yes,
one. So
it
why
is.
would it be next to the one that's incorrect? That wouldn't make sense. That means there were two different thoughts on the chart.
I need to explain to you, this date 164 has got nothing to do with 162, 158.
You don't need, Scott, just, you're not understanding, right? 164, you went to there and said that the pioneers are counting from there to the birth of Christ. So you're using the same calculation, that's what he's doing, to count it from 158. But it's two different thoughts on the chart. So it can't be that would be two opposing thoughts on a chart that we say is truth.
Yeah,
So,
what I want to say is that the chart is correct in what it says, but that some pioneers might have been confused with this.
but it doesn't matter. If they were confused, it means the chart would be wrong.
No, some that didn't know the dates of the chart or that said other dates.
Those who said
Yeah, those who put 162, they may have been calculated
Phil,
wrong.
you would have to find something written that marks that. That's just an assumption otherwise.
Yes. Okay, because we will see now that this argument doesn't hold according to the pioneer writings. Okay?
Also wir werden sehen, dass dieser Argument nicht standhalten kann aufgrund der Pionierschrift.
Because here in the next quote, it's again Josiah Litch. Okay,
Denn hier in diesem nächsten Zitat ist es wieder Josiah Litch
and this was written 1842 when the chart was published.
und das war in 1842 geschrieben, als die Karte erstellt worden ist.
So he writes the following here.
Und er sagt Folgendes.
So he first quotes Daniel 11 verse 23.
Er zitiert zuerst Daniel 11, Vers
It
23.
says, "And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people." The league made with him must refer to the subject of prophecy, which is the Romans, as just has been proved. The revelation was to show what should befall the church. It was to make a league with the Romans. The league was made, and it is the first ever made between the Jews and Romans, BC 161. So he uses 161, some others say 162.
So hier
Okay.
benutzt er 1,61 und andere sagen 1,62.
61,
Yes,
61, not 160.
161. 161 BC.
It says in my document
61.
66.
Yes, but he misses one there. Yeah. Because when you go down,
Also es steht zwar es ist 61 da, aber das ist ein Schreibfehler, denn wenn man runtergeht in demselben Zitat,
then you can see that he speaks also about 158 BC.
dann kann man sehen, dass er spricht auch über 1,58.
let us just read the context and then you will see this.
Lasst uns
Okay.
den Zusammenhang lesen und wir werden das selbst
So
erkennen.
let's read the boldfaced again.
Also das Fettgedruckte wollen wir wieder lesen.
That league was made, and it was the first ever made between the Jews and the Romans, 161 BC. And he gives the reference, Josephus, chapter 10, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then he quotes now Josephus. And it says, "But now, as the high priest Alcimus was resolving to pull down the wall of the sanctuary, which had been there of all time and had been built by the holy prophets, he was smitten suddenly by God and fell down. This stroke made him fall down speechless upon the ground, and undergoing torments for many days, he at length died, when he had been high priest 4 years. And when he was dead, the people bestowed the high priesthood on Judas, who, hearing of the power of the Romans, and that they had conquered in war, Galatia and Iberia and Carthage and Libya, and that besides these they had subdued Greece and the kings Perseus and Philip and Antiochus the Great also, he resolved to enter into a league of friendship with them." So that's this Jewish league. "He therefore sent to Rome some of his friends, and Polemos, the son of John, and Jason, and the son of Eleazar, and by them desired the Romans that they would assist them and be their friends, and would write to Demetrius that he would not fight against the Jews." So this Demetrius which was this
Greek.
Greek king,
So
Okay.
dieser Demetrios hier war dieser griechische König,
which vexed them,
die sie bekämpft haben.
and Bacchius was his general.
Und Bacchios war seine General.
So the Senate received the ambassadors that came from Judas to Rome and discoursed with them about the errand on which they came, and then granted them a league of assistance. They also made a decree concerning it and sent a copy of it into Judea. It was also laid up in the Capitol and graven in brass. The decree itself was this: the decree of the Senate concerning a league of assistance and friendship with the nation of the Jews. It shall not be lawful for any that are subject to the Romans to make war with the nation of the Jews, nor to assist those that do so, either by sending them corn or ships or money. And if any attack be made upon the Jews, the Romans shall assist them, as far as they are able. And again, if any attack be made upon the Romans, the Jews shall assist them. And if the Jews have a mind to add to, or to take anything from this league of assistance, that shall be done with the common consent of the Romans. And whatsoever addition shall thus be made, it shall be of force. This decree was written by Polemos, the son of John, and by Jason, the son of Eleazar, when Judas was high priest of the nation, and Simon his brother was general of the army. And this was the first league that the Romans made with the Jews, and was managed after this manner. And then he says, the reader will also find this history related at large in 1 Maccabees 8th chapter. It seems from Maccabees that the Romans interposed in behalf of the Jews, and the Senate wrote to their enemies to refrain from the oppression and affliction of the Jews, and threatened them if they persisted. The war between the Jews and Macedonians ended 158 BC. Okay, so here we see that Josiah Litch, he explains basically what 158 BC marked.
So, hier können wir sehen, Josiah Litch erklärt, was 158 markiert.
It marked when the Romans then threatened the Greeks to not vex the Jews any longer.
So, es markiert der Punkt, wo die Römer bedrohte, diese Makkabäer, diese Griechen, dass sie den Juden in Ruhe lassen sollen.
But the league was already...
Sorry?
Macedonia is nicht Maccabea.
Okay, it says oh, I'm reading. Okay, Macedonia. Yes, sorry. Thank you.
Maccabea. So, but the league was already signed 3 or 4 years earlier.
Aber diese Bündnis wurde schon abgemacht 2 oder 3 Jahre oder 3 oder 4 Jahre zuvor.
Okay. So, and this is also confirmed here, for instance, by Sylvester Bliss.
Und das wird auch durch den Historiker Sylvester Bliss oder den Pionier Sylvester Bliss bestätigt.
Okay. And he also puts it in BC 162.
Er markiert das auch in 162 vor Christus.
Okay. and basically they quote from Maccabees.
Und die zitieren von diesem Buch der Makkabäer.
Okay, and I read through the Maccabees, the chapters that refer to this league.
Und ich habe die Kapitel in den Makkabäern selbst durchgelesen, die in Bezug auf diesen Bündnis sprechen.
And then you can see, at least from this book, that there's definitely a time of some years between the league and when the war ended with the Greeks.
Und von diesem Buch allein kann man auf jeden Fall erkennen, dass es einen Zeitunterschied gibt zwischen der Zeit, wo der Bündnis abgeschlossen ist, bis zu der Punkt, wo diesen Krieg zwischen den Griechen und den Juden beendet ist.
Okay, let us just quickly go back to this picture.
So, lasst uns schnell zurück zu diesem Bild, die ich gepostet habe in den Livestream.
Because there you can see what they referenced here with 158 BC.
Weil da kann man sehen, was sie mit 158 gemeint haben.
It says here, time of the league between the Jews and Romans, 150 years before Christ, 1 Maccabees chapter 9 verses 70 to 71. Okay, so when you go back to your notes, we can now read 1 Maccabees chapter 9 verses 70 to 71.
Also da steht 1. Makkabäer Kapitel 9, die Verse 70 und 71.
It's at the very end of your notes.
Und wenn wir zu den Notizen gehen, wir können gerade diesen Versen lesen und das ist gerade am Ende von den Notizen
Okay,
zu
so,
finden.
so they used verse 70 and 71 as reference to what they want to mark on the chart.
Die haben die Verse 70 und 71 benutzt, um das, was sie auf die Karte markiert haben, zu bestätigen.
Okay, and just to get the context of what is written in these verses, we just have to read a little bit more.
Und nur um den Kontext zu verschaffen, was hier in diesen Versen geschrieben ist, wir lesen etwas mehr.
And basically what we can see is this final conflict where what's the name again? Bacchides, comes the last time to fight against the Jews, and then he returns nevermore to come back.
So, und hier markiert können wir sehen, dieser letzte Kampf, diese Bacchides, bringt gegen den Juden und danach kommt er nie wieder.
It says here, verse 63.
Vers 63.
Which thing when Bacchides knew, he gathered together all his host and sent word to them that were of Judea. Then went he and laid siege against Beth-Vasi, and they fought against it a long season and made engines of war. But Jonathan left his brother Simon in the city. So Jonathan is the leader of the Jews.
So, Jonathan hier ist der Anführer der Juden.
So he left his brother Simon in the city and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number went he forth. And he smote Odonaches and his brethren and the children of Pharizon in their tent. That were some people that belonged to Bacchides.
Und das war einige, die zu diesem griechischen General gehörten.
And when he began to smite them and came up with his forces, Simon and his company went out of the city and burned up the engines of war, and fought against Bacchides, who was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked man that gave him counsel to come into the country, because there were wicked Jews that said, come and fight against Jonathan.
Denn es war böse Juden, die haben zu diesem General gesagt, kommt und kämpft gegen diesen Jonathan.
And they basically gave him false counsel. Okay.
Die haben ihm falsches Rat
Or
gegeben
bad counsel.
oder schlechtes Rat sogar.
So, insomuch as he slew many of them and purposed to return into his own country. So now Bacchides wants to return into his own country.
Jetzt Bacchides will in sein eigenes Land zurückkehren, Vers 69.
Whereof, when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him to Bacchides, to the end he should make peace with him and deliver them the prisoners. Which thing he, Bacchides, accepted and did according to his demands, and sware unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Judea, he returned and went his way into his own land, neither came he any more into their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, But Jonathan dwelt at Machnas and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the ungodly men out of Israel. Okay, so here we can see when this league went into effect,
So hier können wir sehen, dass diese Bündnis trat ein.
and it was the last time the Grecians came, what followed then?
Und es war der letzte Mal, wo die Griechen gegen sie gezogen sind. Was folgte?
What did we see?
Peace.
Yes, a time of peace. Okay.
Zeit des Friedens.
So it just shows the same idea.
So, es zeigt wieder dasselbe Muster auf.
Okay. And maybe just where we can read where the Romans threatened the Greeks,
Und wir wollen ja nur noch dazu lesen, wo die Römer den Griechen bedroht haben.
because in the whole chapter 8 of 1 Maccabees you can read about this league.
Denn
Okay.
in des gesamten Kapitel 8 von diesem Makkabäer kann man über diese Bündnis lesen.
Okay, let's go a little bit up. I posted the whole chapter 8.
So, gehen wir ein bisschen hinauf. Da ist das gesamte Kapitel 8.
Is this Maccabea book which is in the Catholic Bible?
Which is in the Apocrypha, yes.
Yeah.
And it's not inspired, but it's a history book.
Es ist auf jeden Fall nicht inspiriert, aber es ist wohl ein Geschichtsbuch.
And the pioneers, they quote often from it, and you can see also put it on the chart. Right?
Die Pionieren, die zitieren öfters daraus und die haben sogar das auf die Karte markiert.
So it's just to take history out of it, not any inspiration.
So, es ist nur Geschichtsereignisse daraus zu entziehen und keine Inspiration.
Okay, let's go now to verse 29 to 32.
Wir gehen von Verse 29 bis 32.
It says, according to these articles did the Romans make a covenant with the people of the Jews. That's now this league.
Es spricht über diese Bündnis.
Howbeit, if hereafter the one party or the other shall think to meet, to add or diminish anything, that they do it after their pleasures, and whatsoever they shall add or take away shall be ratified. And now in verse 31 and 32 is this threat to Demetrius, the Greek king.
So, diese Verse 31, 32, diese Bedrohung zu Demetrius, dieser griechische König.
And as touching the evils that Demetrius doeth to the Jews, we have written, that's the Romans, we have written unto him, saying, wherefore thou made thy yoke heavy upon our friends and confederates, the Jews. If therefore they complain any more against thee, we will do them justice and fight with thee by sea and by land. Okay, so that's basically what they marked. Okay.
So, im Grunde, das ist das, was da markiert ist.
So, in this league, according to Josiah Litch, went into effect then 158 BC when the Greeks never again came at them.
Und diese Bündnis gemäß Josiah Litch ist in Effekt eingegangen in 158, wo die Griechen nie mehr gegen die Juden antrat.
Okay. So this was 158 BC.
158 vor Christus.
And now let's look at the final thought.
So, lasst uns diese allerletzte Gedanke anschauen.
But as I mentioned, right, the league itself was signed a few years earlier.
Aber wie bereits erwähnt, diese Bündnis selbst wurde ein paar Jahre zuvor unterschrieben.
Okay, let's at least according to those sources we have here.
Zumindest gemäß den Quellen, die wir hier zur Verfügung haben.
Okay. Now let's go up to page 1 again.
So, lasst uns zur erste Seite von den Notizen kommen.
And let's read again this second quote.
Und diese zweite Zitat wollen wir ein weiteres Mal lesen.
This is now the final thought and then we can close. And it says, the next period is recorded from verse 22nd to 31st, referring to Daniel 11.
So, spricht über Daniel 11.
It begins with the first league ever made between the Jews and Romans, which took effect when Bacchides, a Grecian general, left off at the command of the Romans to trouble the Jews 158 BC. Okay, so here Josiah Litch says took effect when Bacchides never came back.
So, Josiah Litch sagt, es ist in Effekt getreten, als Bacchides nie zurückkommt.
And it says then, and extends to the taking away of the daily sacrifice of pagan Rome, to make way for the abomination which maketh desolate, or the papal power which took place AD 508. So he basically says that this league extended to when?
So, er sagt im Grunde, dass diese Bündnis ging bis wann?
508.
Bis
Okay.
508.
And 508 marks what?
Und 508 markiert was?
That's AD.
Nach Christus? Taking away the daily.
The taking away of the daily. Okay.
Das Wegnehmen des Täglichen.
And the taking away of the daily represents what?
Und das Wegnehmen des Täglichen stellt was dar?
According- Yes, according to Daniel 11 verse 31.
So
Right?
gemäß Daniel 11, Vers 31.
It says, "An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Okay, so the league begins here with a time of peace, which is ushered in,
So, der Bündnis fängt hier mit einer Zeit des Friedens, der hineingebracht wird.
and it ends with the next Sunday law,
Und
right?
es kommt zu Ende mit der nächste Sonntagsgesetz.
When the daily is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up.
Wenn das Tägliche weggenommen wird und der Gräuel der Verwüstung
And
aufgesetzt
he
wird.
says then here
Und es sagt hier,
that this period, being a period of 666 years, just the celebrated number of the beast.
es
Okay.
sagt, dass diese Periode eine Periode von 666 Jahre sei, der gefeierte Nummer des Tieres.
Okay, so is this a righteous league?
Ist das eine gerechte Bündnis?
No. Right?
Nein, niemals.
So we see that basically shows that when the SDA will enter into this league with a state power, it's evil in God's eyes.
So, es zeigt nur, wenn die STA-Gemeinde in diese Bündnis mit den Staatskräften eintritt, dass das in Gottes Augen eine Übertretung ist.
Okay, so could you all follow along?
Where is it written 666? Oh,
Konntet ihr jeder mitfolgen?
Maybe it's a little bit, many dates in a little bit obscure history.
Vielleicht ist es zu viele Daten und unbekannte Geschichte, die wir heute gehabt haben.
But it's good that you already heard at least some things of it now.
Aber es ist gut zumindest, dass wir einiges davon jetzt gehört haben.
And I'm pretty sure that this book of Maccabees is something that we will also soon study more.
Und ich bin mir relativ sicher, dass dieses Buch der Makkabäer ist etwas, was wir ein bisschen mehr studieren werden.
Not that it's inspired, but the history that it
Und
teaches.
wieder zu sagen, wir glauben nicht, dass es inspiriert ist, aber dass die Geschichtserklärungen, die da drin erfunden werden, haben was zu sagen.
Okay, so basically what we can see definitely here with 6 witnesses that there will be an external league among the nations at midnight.
Also wir haben 6 Zeugen zu zeigen, dass es eine externe Bündnis mit der Nationen am Mitternacht geben wird.
But also there will be this internal league in a sense that the SDA church will league with a civil power
Aber es
here at
gibt
the
auch
same
diese
time.
interne Bündnis in dem Sinne, dass die STA-Gemeinde mit den Zivilkräften in eine Bündnis eintreten wird zur selben Zeit.
Okay, so that's just another building block for our prediction.
So, es ist
Okay.
nur eine weitere Baustein in unsere Vorhersage.
Yes?
Amen.
You can follow?
Und kann jeder folgen?
So just see tired faces. Okay.
Ich sehe nur ermüdete Gesichter.
Then let us just collect all these thoughts. Okay, keep this in your mind.
So, lasst uns all diese Gedanken sammeln und das im Gedanken beibehalten.
And then the Lord will just manifest it when it comes here at midnight.
Und der Herr wird das manifest machen, wenn es hier am Mitternacht eintritt.
Amen?
Amen.
Do you think that also this aspect here in the code says that from that time the Romans begin to work deceitfully and gradually to gain an ascendancy of the Jews until at length they become tributary to Rome and were governed
Yes.
by high priests
That's what happened at the...
appointed by the Roman
Yes.
government?
They will
Yes,
give
exactly.
up now.
So do you think
Yes.
that
Yes.
would also...
Good point that you mentioned this.
Also Bruder Marius hat erwähnt, dass wenn die in den Bündnis, also die SDA-Gemeinde oder die Juden im Bündnis mit den Römern eintreten, dass es sagt, dass die Römer durch Verführung und Täuschung mehr und mehr Kraft von den Juden erlangen, bis sie unterdrückt haben und sogar Tribute von sie verlangen.
Yes, this is what happened historically, and this just shows that basically when the Sunday law comes, this is when they will fully control them.
Und dass da historisch geschehen ist, hier mit dem Bündnis mit der SDA-Gemeinde, mit den Staatskräften, wird dasselbe geschehen am Sonntagsgesetz, wird der SDA-Gemeinde den Staatsmächten total unterworfen sein.
They break the law right there. And the law was when you go into the land, you're not to make any league with
Yes,
the heathen.
amen.
And then they go into the land and they make a league with the heathen, and it curses them.
Also Gott hat gesagt, wenn ihr in das Land hineinkommt, dann sollt ihr kein Bündnis mit den heidnischen Ländern machen. Und das ist gerade, was die machen hier, wenn die in ein Land hineingehen und ein Fluch kommt auf sie.
Yes, exactly. And this is actually a nice way to show that what the SDA Church will do at the Sunday law.
Und das ist ein schöner Weg, um zu zeigen, was der SDA-Gemeinde am Sonntagsgesetz machen wird.
Because of this league that they will do here, they will eventually side with the state power.
Also wegen diesem Bündnis, die sie hier eintreten, werden sie letztendlich am Sonntagsgesetz den Sonntagsgesetz beugen.
It'll curse them because they made a league. It's like the league they made with the what do you call it?
Nazis.
From Jerusalem. What were they called again?
Gibeonites.
The Gibeonites.
Das ist wie der Bündnis, die mit den Gibeonitern gemacht haben.
Exactly. Okay.
You think they are making this league because of us or out of other reasons?
Also die Frage ist, machen sie diese Bündnis hier wegen uns oder andere Gründe?
I mean, I cannot say it for definite at the moment.
Also ich kann da nicht hundertprozentig das jetzt an dieser Stelle sagen.
Personal gain.
Yes, they would definitely want to have personal gain with that.
Also die wollen auf jeden Fall Gewinn daraus erlangen oder machen.
We might take, or we might be one of their reasons. Okay.
Aber wir werden wohl wahrscheinlich oder möglicherweise eine von deren Gründe sein.
Because they want to, disfranchise them from any kind of fanaticism and any kind of,
It's
You
the
know,
same
Weil
like
sie werden sich von jeder Art von Fanatismus und distanzieren wollen.
it's better to kill one than the whole nation is perishing.
yes, exactly.
Es ist besser, dass einer stirbt, als dass die ganze Nation umkommt.
Yes. Okay. So they rather make a league with the Romans. Then.
Die werden lieber ein Bündnis mit den Römern machen.
Okay, so and it's a nice way to show, because many Adventists says, this ship goes through, and they just say you must stay in this church institution. Okay.
Viele Adventisten sagen, nein, es sagt, dass das Schiff wird durchgehen und wir müssen nur wohl in den STA-Gemeinde bleiben und dann sind wir sicher.
So when they see this and they see this leak, then you can reprove them. Okay.
Wenn sie das sehen und diesen Bündnis sehen, dann sind wir imstande, die deswegen zu tadeln.
Okay, then if there are no more questions, then I would suggest let us close with our prayer round.
So, wenn es keine weiteren Fragen gäbe, dann schlage ich vor, dass wir mit unserer Gebetsrunde für heute abschließen.
Okay.